Thank you for joining us as we look at God's Word. I want to refer you back to the one miracle that Jesus so far has performed in Jerusalem. Now, it's not the only miracle that he's done up to this point, but it's the only one so far before this particular passage that he's done in Jerusalem. And it was back in chapter 5, and there was a man who was lame, and he was by a pool, a portico around the temple, and he'd been lame for a long, long time, and Jesus said, "Take up your bed and walk." And he did. And the Pharisees, the ones he's talking to here in John chapter 7, said, "What are you doing carrying your bed on the Sabbath day? That's work." And he said, "Well, the man who told me to take up my bed and walk told me to do it." "Well, who is he?" "Well, I don't know." "Well, he did it on the Sabbath. He's not supposed to do it on the Sabbath." And so he found out later that it was Jesus, and he told them that it was Jesus. And so they went to Jesus and they said, "It's not lawful for you to heal on the Sabbath," because a rabbi taught that it was okay to heal somebody to keep them from dying on the Sabbath, but if you healed them to make them feel better, that was work. They had whole volumes on what is work and what is not work, instead of just leaving it to a person to decide for himself. The Lord looks on the heart to decide for himself what's work and what isn't. And so when they said, "It's not right for you to work on the Sabbath," Jesus said, "Well, my Father works until this time and I work." And so here's what it says in John 5:18 after he made this statement. "For this reason, therefore, the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because he not only was breaking the Sabbath by making a guy well, but also was calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Because if someone is your father, you're made of the same stuff." And so he was saying he was divine by calling God his Father, which was the truth. And so that's what he's referring to when he says, "I've done one miracle or one sign before you." He was talking about that. Okay? Because that makes this passage make more sense. John chapter 7, starting with verse 19. "Did not Moses give you the law, and yet none of you carries out the law? Why do you seek to kill me?" The crowd answered, "You have a demon. Who seeks to kill you?" Jesus answered them, "I did one deed, healing the lame man, and you all marvel. For this reason Moses has given you circumcision, not because it's from Moses, but from the fathers, because Abraham actually circumcised before Moses came along. If a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath, so that the law of Moses will not be broken." In other words, rabbis would circumcise a baby on the Sabbath day. Okay. That wasn't to save his life. But anyway, okay. "A man receives circumcision on the Sabbath, so the law of Moses will not be broken. Are you angry with me because I made an entire man well on the Sabbath? You cut a little baby boy on the Sabbath and say it's okay, and then I healed a lame man on the Sabbath and you say it's not?" And so in verse 24, "Don't judge according to appearance. Judge with righteous judgment." Y'all are caught up in what looks right and what fits this little game of Mother May I and all that kind of stuff, instead of looking at the spirit behind the law and looking at what's really important. And so he pretty well summed up what they were all about in Matthew 23, that he said his last week while he was here on earth. He really let the scribes and Pharisees have it. He said, "They do all their deeds to be noticed by men." And what did he also call them? And this was like Passover time. At Passover time, you didn't want to be defiled by touching a dead body. And so they would take whitewash, and all of the tombs that had stones in front of them, they would whitewash the stone in front of those tombs so that people will know there's somebody buried here, so that they wouldn't touch them and be defiled and not able to participate in Passover. Jesus said, "Y'all are like whitewashed sepulchres. You appear to men to be so beautiful and pure, but inside you're full of decay." Yeah. Don't judge by appearance. Judge by right judgment. Have a great day.